Now, the rest of the story.
Welcome back to the rest of the story. Say hi, Brittany.
Hi.
See, she's wearing the short shorts with the sweatshirt with her hood up because it's warm out, but it's cold out. Yeah, okay. At least that's what she tells me. Well, the planter is currently in the clinic. I've gradually been working on it all afternoon. I burned through all of my parts that I had here. Come on, light. Batteries must be getting bad. Went through, pulled off all the old chains on all the row units. There were 3 chains for every row. I went through, in the matter of 2 hours, I got, well, 1.5 of the chains, of the overall chains done. When I say, I mean, I have all of these longer chains put on and replaced, and I have half of these shorter chains here put back on. We're not doing the 3rd chain, which is a longer chain, because we're not using the insecticide boxes anymore. We're not going to be putting down granular anymore. We're still going to put the boxes on just because they're here and I don't want to see them get damaged, and as long as they're on the planter, they're not going to get destroyed. So we didn't have any issues as far as getting the chains on, other than the fact that these chains, these longer chains on the front, these were all a little long, which a little long is better than a little short. They were pre-cut chains right from the dealership. I recalled the dealer back up just to make sure that we had the right chains, and turns out there's an infinite amount of options you can have when it comes to doing these chains, or comes to ordering these chains. And we do have the shortest chains available for these units, but from what I understand, the ag leader, the row shutoffs, kind of threw the count off, which it was no big deal. All I did was go through and I cut off 6 links off of all these chains, and it works just fine. Plenty of slack, plenty of tension on the springs, and we'll be set to go. The reason I went with that route rather than going and getting just a bulk roll of chain or just a box of it, the parts guy, my friend Ryan, he did the math for me, and it would have cost a little over $300 to do a bulk roll of chain. To do a bulk roll of chain plus all of the connectors that we need, it would have been a little over $300. The 12 chains that we got that were pre-cut, that I had to go through and cut off 6 links, they already had the connectors in them and everything. I mean, it was $100 total to do all 12 of these rows. Really couldn't argue with that at all. And we do have a bulk roll that I went through. I had to use for these shorter chains through here, another roll of that, or another box of that, and that'll finish up the rest of this planter. 6 more row units and the chains will be done as far as going through and doing that. The reason that we're changing them, they're not that old, but the problem is all it takes is one little kink. I don't know if I can find one, probably won't now that I'm on camera. But it doesn't take much. All it takes is one chain to have a kink in it, and it throws off your whole row unit. So what I mean when I say that is that the chain won't flex like it should. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I'm actually forcing that to turn. It does have a bunch of dirt built up on it, and that was part of the problems. Oh, it's got my part of the problems we were having last year. The reason that you don't want your chains or anything to be kinked, because what happens is they pop, they bang, and it throws off your singulation. It throws off your row units, because we have the fingers. It's not vacuum, and what happens is that when that chain jumps, it sends a reverberation through the whole unit, and you run the risk of shaking those fingers and losing a seed that finger is potentially holding, and it messes up your population, messes up your rate, messes up your singulation. And singulation is putting down one seed for every drop that finger is running around. And I think there's 12 fingers in each unit. I really should pull one of these apart. I mean, these are a little bit more complicated than the bean cups. The bean cups are super simple, but you can have problems with the bean meters, because last year we had one that was giving us issues. We just couldn't get the population up. It was about 20,000 less than everything else. I did some switch gnostics, and switch gnostics is when you take apart and you swap it out with one that you know is working, and it stayed with that particular bean cup. And it turns out, and it happens every once in a while, there's a shaft right here that this runs on. If I pulled this out and pulled this piece off, there's a metal shaft that comes out that everything is rotating on. I'm referring to the bean cups, or the bean meters. And what happened was, sometimes you got to take those row units off when they're full of seed. And evidently I'm pretty sure I did it, but I'm pretty sure that when I took it off, I went to go put it back on, I dropped it on the frame here. And what happened was that it bent that shaft ever so slightly, so it was actually flexing everything in there, and it wasn't allowing it to turn properly, so it was getting resistance when it was going about halfway around, which, you know, makes sense for the shaft being just slightly bent. And it was causing problems, causing us grief. So a new bean meter, bean cup, and we were set to go. The corn planter really doesn't need a whole lot much more work after I get done with the chains. The chains in the drive unit, the majority of those are new. I'm going to look at them a little bit closer and examine them with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that none of those are sticking or anything. I did hit them with WD-40 last fall. I hit this whole planter with about 1 full can of WD-40. The reason I did that is because of this stuff. Because of the liquid, I was worried about any of exposed metal potentially rusting out, and you can see where I didn't quite hit it very well up here. This is all from the liquid fertilizer we're using. I didn't get enough WD-40 or enough spray on it to protect it. But the planter is gonna have to get washed off here along with like literally everything else. I mean, today is 70 degrees out, as you can see from Brittany. It's kind of warm for her, but don't let that deceive you. She's not really warm until it's about 95 out. So, that right, honey?
Yeah, I like it to be like 100 degrees.
Yeah, I don't like it 100 degrees. I like the 70 degrees weather we have right now.
Okay, honey, are you gonna get rid of those?
The chains?
No, those things in your pockets.
What things in my pockets?
Your feathers.
What feathers?
Those.
The shop towels?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's look at Travis. Now, when he comes home, I find these laying around my house all the time.
I don't know what you're talking
They
about.
fall off in my house, and I have to pick them up everywhere.
They're a very important
I
accessory
don't
of
like
mine.
this time of year because there's these loose towels all over the place.
Well, hopefully everybody can hear you because the microphone's on my chest.
I'm sure they can hear me just fine.
Well, you sound like you're mumbling.
I can't help it.
Yeah, she can't help it. So, as far as the planter goes, other than the chains, got to check the tire pressure. Got to check the tire pressure on that drive tire. Hook it back up to the 46. Make sure none of the airbags have any leaks in them. Got to run the liquid system. Make sure all that is set to go, and not trip over the dog. Other than that, the planter doesn't need nearly as much work as it did the last 2 years. That's why we didn't have it out in the first week of March like we had, well, last year for sure. It is like the first week of April. It's nice out, but it's not a last minute panic thing to get the planter ready to go. Fortunately enough for us, because we do have a bunch of tillage that we're trying to do, have to do yet, and that is the problem with the 46 right now. It is on the chisel plow. So as far as hooking the 46 back up and making all the proper connections and getting the monitor set up and everything, it will going to happen. It's just that I like to get as much chiseling done with that tractor as I can, because we're getting late enough that if we got to put the 82 on the chisel plow, we will. Just because overall our attitude is getting to where we don't really want to mess around anymore. It's more of a no-nonsense stance right now. So if we had to put the 82 on the chisel to accommodate the 46 getting on the corn planter and getting set up ready to go, so be it. The plan is I haven't done much with the grain drill. Grain drill didn't need much. All the scrapers I went through and made sure all of the blades are loose. They were actually sticking where they were kind of struggling to turn around. It wasn't that the bearings were out, it's that the scrapers on the back end of the blades were too tight. I don't know if it's just from hitting rocks or just years and years of use, but these scrapers, I actually pried it away and it allowed the blades to turn a lot more freely. And it doesn't squeak quite so bad. I didn't pull them so far away that it's not gonna knock the dirt off that's coming around on the blades, but when it's so tight that the scrapers are keeping the blades from turning, it's an issue. So the 4020 is gonna end up on that. The 76 is gonna end up on the 630 disc to work some waterways in, and then the 76 will end up on the Harrow, and the 82 has to end up on the VT, probably sooner than later, because the next time the weather straightens out, and here's the thing, we got a whole bunch of rain coming, potential snow coming in another 2 days, but when the conditions are decent enough again that we can start doing field work, start planting, we're actually gonna go ahead and try to seed down at least part of our oats acres, our seeding acres. So I don't know, plans tend to fall apart a lot, especially this time of year. But with that, I gotta see what she's doing. Thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in, take care, take it easy, keep in touch. I'm getting excited. I'm sure everybody else is too, so I'll talk to you later.